This is Earth. Our planet, our place, our home. Earth is brimming full of life, each soul beautiful in its own way, specifically tailored towards its own natural environments. Today, we visit the board game geek in their natural, musty habitat. It is gaming season. The board gamer must find a suitable game to play, or they will suffer extraordinary boredom. This kills the board gamer. Luckily, they have found a new home in Earth. A game called Earth. They pantomime Earth's natural beauty with cards made from the Earth in a fascinating facsimile of Earth. It brings them great joy. They will now go online, biologically inclined to loudly socialize their thoughts on the game.
This video is brought to you by our good friends at Game Theory Tables. Not only did they make this Origins table that we filmed this review on, they're also coming out with a digital board game table. Wait, what? Yeah, no kidding. This is the Arena, a literal digital board game table. It's a touchscreen commercial display that is a table you can play on. It has speakers and Bluetooth functionality too. Like, what the heck? Anyways, check out our link in the description below to go to the Arena's Kickstarter, which is coming out on February 14th. It's also available for pre-order today. Now, back to the review. You like these Euros, but you think they're too long for your schedule, or maybe there's just too much downtime for you. But what if this Tableau builder, that's also about nature, could solve both of these problems? In Earth, you're building your own cute little island with different plants and ecosystems. And the big catch is, other people's turns also let you activate your board. So yeah, this Euro has a lot going on, from differing cards, objectives, and combos. Oh my gosh, there's lots of combos. But the game is only 45 to 90 minutes. We played this game 4 times in person, then once on BGA. We didn't get to try the 1 and 2 player mode, but plenty of thoughts on that later on. How to play! The goal is to get the most points by having the coolest island. Here are our main ways to get points. Complete one of these objectives. First place gets 15 points, then everyone else after that gets a little bit less. You also get rewarded for doing more of this ecosystem cards. Then have cards in your island worth points. And there's cards called terrain that can give you more points endgame after planted. Or get a point for each card in your discard called the compost. Lastly, you get points for stuff growing on your cards, namely these sprouts and growths. Green cube sprouts are worth 1 point each. Growths are also 1 point each unless you cap out that card. Then the entire stack is worth the listed VP. On your turn, all you do is pick one of these 4 colors. Loosely, green lets you plant stuff on your island, red gives you soil to later plant stuff, blue lets you get a ton of sprouts, and yellow lets you draw a lot of cards and grow a little bit. So let's say you pick green. You get to plant 2 cards from your hand on your island by paying their dirt costs. Just place it next to something you've already planted. Then you do the second part of the green action, you draw 4 cards, pick 1 to keep. Then every other player does the bottom. They plant 1 card, draw 1 card. Then every player, yes, everyone, activates all their cards with that color that is green on their island. So yeah, you just get these things for free. That's your turn. Then you pass the player token clockwise. The game ends when someone fills up their entire island and getting that 4x4. Gets a 7-point bonus for doing so. Then you play until everyone had the same amount of turns. Then you take out this pad and tally up everything to see who won the game. Pros! The Earth looks awesome. No, actually, for component pros, this board game looks great. This box alone is made out of some thicker feeling cardboard, great art all going down the sides, and a matte finish. Great to the touch, gonna be great on your bookshelf. Inside the box, we gotta shout out these wooden growth pieces. You have the normal pieces, then multicolored toppers of questionable shape, but anyways, they all fit so well together and don't really fall over. Like compared to the bamboo shoots of Takenoko, the earth pieces are so solid. Oh, and hooray for more wooden pieces for the sprouts. These both look like parts of plants growing on your cards that are plants. The player boards that everyone gets and the one in the middle are all nice and thick with a natural feeling touch. We really appreciated how much detail there is on every single card you can look at. For cards in hand, there's the appropriate habitats at the top, room for growth, Latin names, and if it interacts with cards around it, it has arrows. Oh, and then there's flavor text for learning. The lore for our planet Earth is sick and sounds so realistic. On the objectives, it even shows the percentages of those cards. Great ad. In fact, there is so much on each card, but they're also easy to read in how consistent and color-coded they are. You draw a terrain, yeah, it's brown. Event, that one's black. This blends right into the nice iconography, where almost everything makes sense, like planting, composting from deck or hand, drawing, and getting dirt. Oh yeah, by the way, it's technically called soil, but for fun, we call this dirt.
Dirt.
I love the dirt.
Anyways, symbols are all very well explained at the bottom of each player's board. The color activations also have icons too, which is a great decision to help the colorblind. The rulebook is also excellent, with plenty of diagrams, clear wording, and tons of little helpful boxes to organize your thoughts. Nice addition of a beginner mode too to get people playing faster. It's Gameplay Pros time, and we first have to praise the immediacy of crunch in this Euro. Like right when you start, there's a ton of decisions to make. In beginning of game, you get 6 double-sided cards to make your starting loadout. And these really matter in getting a head start. You're weighing between getting more cards, resources, or flat out initial VP. So then you're looking at the objectives in the middle, and then you have some strategy of what colors to go for, and if you do this all right, you can get a 20 to 30 VP swing. 2 of these cards have actual color activations on them, so you can already start planning an engine. It's not surprising that in early game, you have those cards, plus some initial plants in your island for a line of activations that can pop off on other players' turns. There's just an absurd matrix of choices in the early game. Every card draw you have matters. What you decide to plant matters. What cards you discard matters. And you can even decide to use that event now or later because you can use these events anytime during the game. Doesn't take up your turn. Oh, speaking of cards in hand, you're gonna have a ton of them, which keeps the options you can do immense. Your turn to draw is drawing 4 cards, and a side bonus for green is seeing 4 cards, then keeping 1. So your hand is going to have stuff available to use, no doubt. Essentially, Earth's early game is like many other Euros mid to late game, or even other Euros late game. Earth has endless decisions on what colors to prioritize, how to manage your rather large hand, and how to go about building your island. Here's one of those important things to pinpoint. How you actually decide to build your island, because it's not a 4x4, just fill it up and that's it. Nope. The orientation of your cards matters. There's terrain that can get you points for certain types of cards next to it, or in its row, or its column. There's ecosystems that reward you for setting up your island in a certain way. One of them asks you to build a continuous diagonal line of herbs. You can get up to 7 here. And then plants can also let other plants around it produce more stuff. Lastly, when you activate the abilities of cards, it's always from left to right of your island, like you're reading a book. And did we mention there's multicolored ones? You probably want to produce a dirt before you spend it to do something else, eh? Wait, is that a combo? And that's the next Gameplay Pro. The huge amount of combo goodness there is. There's combos easily in the early game helped with your island's initial setup here. You got color activations. And there's plenty of ways to get more combos and theory craft bigger and bigger ones, helped with having so many cards in hand. Here's one of just getting a bunch of stuff from red. Get a growth, then a cube, and then 2 dirt from spending something in your hand. But then you can spend the growth you just made earlier to get a card back. Hey, look, there's a yellow sprout that can copy another ability. So you first grow with this yellow ability to get stuff in this column, and then copy that yellow ability to grow again in a new column. After you max out and can't grow anymore, just use this ability to copy another yellow. Hypothetical bigger combo time. How about you have a starting island that says you get +2 cards whenever you choose blue for your turn? Okay, so let's go hard on blue this game. But oh no, by playing blue so much, you're a little short on dirt to grow stuff. So let's play this extinct volcano, which gets you dirt every time people activate green, which is very often because that's how you plant plants. Great, so now you can keep spamming blue no problem, where you're intentionally building blues to get you dirt, because this extinct volcano prevents you from ever picking red yourself, which is the dirt action. Look how much dirt you get by playing blue here. You can do a build with this idea for every color too, because there's cousins of the extinct volcano. We didn't mention this too, but all plant activations are optional, with you getting to choose to do your player board activation before or after plants. So it's even crunchy going through each one and being like, hey, should I do this conversion this turn, or maybe not? Maybe I'll do it next turn. And the card diversity in this game is crazy. This central deck of cards is 283 cards with no duplicates. Every single card is completely unique. The 179 Earth cards have lots from mushrooms to bushes with different attributes we'll get into a bit later. 66 terrain cards all let you build a bit differently with giving you points or discounts. And then there's the 38 event cards that you can choose to play anytime. We have to stress that there's just so many different strategies for insane replayability. There's so many paths to victory. You can pick a certain color and then really go hard on that one. Or you can go really hard on terrain. Plant 3 of these in your island to see how many points you can get. Or go hard on objective completion. then build dirt cheap stuff to fill up your island and end the game early. Or go the growing and sprouting strategy. You can easily get 20 a turn. Or fill up that trash for compost points. Or get a bunch of hand cards. Like look at this terrain that gives you points end game for cards in hand. There's an objective that does this too, and an ecosystem. Or maybe you have a game where dirt is worth points, so now you get a bunch of that. There's just so much room to experiment after many plays. We played it 5 times and just see so much more over the horizon. And remember, you're combining drawing from this deck of 283 cards with your initial ecosystem, island loadout, objectives in the middle, and the climates. Like according to the rulebook, there's 25,600 possible starting setups. So yeah, that's pretty insane. And that doesn't even account for card draw and nature's diversity. Woohoo! In fact, with so many cards, something could go wrong with the balance of this deck, right? Nope. So our next gameplay pro is that Earth actually feels really well balanced. See, even with all the unique cards in the game, there's many overlapping ones. And there's just so much card draw that's gonna happen over the course of the game. So yeah, you could have a busted event opening, it's possible, but on average, it won't happen. Usually everyone's gonna start with something good as they combine their card draw with their initial loadout. The next gameplay pro is the huge draw to this game, which is the simultaneous-ish gameplay. Now this isn't 7 Wonders or Last Light where you're all literally flipping a card over at the same time, but in practice, in Earth, pretty much everyone is going at the same time. Once you hear what color is picked for someone's turn, it's go time, do your thing. Someone pick blue, do all your blue stuff. This is super clever because you're essentially adding more actions into the game without adding more turns. With the oodles of cards in your hand, with events you can activate at any time, there's always something to look at. And this means that you can play the game up to 5 players without much increase in time. It really is about 1.5 hours after your second game. Real quick thing on the sum interaction in this game, the way the colors on cards are displayed makes it easy to see what colors others are going for at a glance. Do you want to choose yellow on your turn? Oh, he has a bunch of yellow plants on his island. Okay, maybe I shouldn't choose yellow. So sure, it's easy to get immersed in your own island with so much crunchiness in every aspect of the game, even not on your turn, but the visibility is there to check out the other islands if you want. As we wrap up this pros, I just want to point out how cool the progression is of Earth. Your early game will already have stuff popping off, but mid to late game is where your engine starts going bonkers, especially if someone picked a color you're invested in. Heck, even if you didn't invest that much in one color that is chosen, with all the dual colors, cheap cards, and rainbow wild activations, everyone mid-game on average will be getting quite a bit of stuff from every color. So islands keep churning out faster and faster, line go up, and at some point there's a pressing tension to see, oh, his island is almost filled, the game is about to end. Should I try to end it first to get that 7 VP? Or can I get more points taking my turn to exploit my plant engine combos that are popping off? The last pro for Earth is how well its nature theme meets its gameplay. Okay, sure, if you're an ecology expert, this game isn't a walk in the park, but it still feels like you're building something fairly realistic. Like you have a literal ecosystem on your island that you're trying to build towards, okay? Terrain helps other plants grow. Maybe some plants like mushrooms are dirt cheap, sometimes free, and you can't grow much height on them, but this shiitake mushroom is something special. Yummy. And you know what can grow a lot of height? Trees! Big tree, grow tall and strong. And the idea of the objectives is that they're different animals. So you're attracting those suckers to your island by growing certain plants and making it habitable for them. Even events are really thematic. Tons of dirt from mud pots and lava flows, heat waves and rainbow sunshines give lots of growth, and a giant flood gives lots of compost because new fertile soil. Yeah, I remember this stuff in 6th grade earth science class. Even composting your unused plants from your hand makes sense. They go into the ground, helping the earth out, one compost at a time. Cons! Component cons time. And you know how there's all these tiny pieces and decks of cards? Well, the game doesn't come with nearly enough plastic bags to store it. We had to bring some of our own into the equation. It's also hard to see these objectives in the middle. They're the same size as cards in your hand, with the text not that big. In fact, why not make these cards show the objective on both sides of the card? Then put the name in the middle. While we're on these objectives, some really do need examples of the specific cards they're asking for. People have gotten upset saying, hey, I did get the objective. Wait, what? Kiwi has to be underlined to count as an animal? I'm not even kidding about this. Oh, also this leaf symbol is confusing, but that gets us right into the iconography cons. Yes, a lot do make sense, but a couple like this are not. See, this leaf symbol is the same exact symbol as compost. Why? Well, it's to denote that these are both worth raw points. But that's confusing because when you see the leaf symbol, you think, wait, does that interact with my compost? Doesn't help how the same symbol is on the back of cards, which makes you think it's part of the game art when it's trying to say that cards face down are compost. Then why make this so small? This leaf yet again appears in the sprout area of cards. These sprouts are not trash. Basically, change the personal compost symbol to something else to look more like trash, and give sprouts their own symbol. It should already be clear that sprouts are worth a VP each. They don't need another reminder. The last iconography thing is that there's something called flora some of these cards are asking for, but then flora is not explained on your player board, and it's not explained on these green plant cards, which are flora. Besides putting flora on the green card, you could also make the flora text be green. Scoring! Now it's time for a recommended score on Earth, where we try to critically evaluate the aforementioned pros and cons, with the caveat of whether or not this is even a good idea in the first place. And this being a tableau builder, an engine builder that solves the Euro downtime issue, sounds like a really good idea to me. And so, this is gonna get a 10 out of 10! Yes, Earth is a masterpiece. Okay, obviously there are some component cons, as we said, and yes, your hands of cards are going to get gigantic, but since you're playing in person, you can organize it pretty well. This really stood out to us after playing on BGA, where all those suckers splayed out on screen was an eyesore. Anyways, all of this stuff is pretty much negligible in the grand scheme of the IRL Earth experience. Earth is offering so much to Euro fans that want that engine building experience, but just faster. See, putting stuff on your played cards, kind of like building eggs in Wingspan, and then you're competing over these central objectives. Sounds real familiar, huh? Of course, Earth is more diverse with more point salad aspects, with so much insane hand management and events being dropped everywhere. Hey, Earth has a lot of card game isms, like some CCGs like modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, oh snap, I'm gonna have this massive chain of events, I play 4 events in a row, and then I activate blue, which pops off my island even harder. Or I could just keep some of these events in my hand and activate them on opponent's turns. Kind of like even trap cards even. Oh yeah, cards, we have to talk about randomness. So yes, it's 283 cards and everyone is drawing from it. But as we hinted at during balance, the randomness is actually well handled. You draw so much in this game. And sure, someone can get a busted opening, but getting a couple extra points doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things among Euro veterans. Earth ends up being a very tactile experience, where you're touching stuff as much as you're taking actions, which is everyone's turn, so constantly. There's a growth in sprouts to fiddle around with, your hand demands organization, and you can even move all these little leaves around to keep track of things. Who can make the most calorie efficient point salad as you find the tiniest details in your hands and squeeze for the best juices before someone completes their island. Combine that with a beautifully presented game with a seamlessly integrated theme, and we got ourselves a legit 10 out of 10 here. Now, of course, not everything about the theme makes complete sense. We have seen rainforests on what seems to be desert islands, and this supernova right here, yeah, I don't think that will just be growing stuff on your island. I think it's gonna be doing more than that. But hey, this is enough like a nature simulator where you can maybe feel like you're touching grass, even when you're not. Earth is just a feel-as-good game where stuff is constantly happening. Good stuff keeps coming to your island, you can't really neg points, and so it's like the line just keeps going up. Everything really matters to win consistently since it's a point salad. But also, since there's so much conversion of resources, including a built-in one, everything doesn't always matter if you're just playing for fun. You really just don't feel bad. So when you're playing Earth, you're a grower and a shower. Grow, grow, grow! Your boards look nuts. But be warned, Earth is not the easiest Euro to jump into. There's just so much front-loading of information. There's symbols and so many cards to look at, and your tableau placement does matter. Earth is a really good step 2 gateway game, maybe after you've played stuff like Wingspan or Splendor or Parks. Then you hop into this and it'll be a fantastic choice. And for seasoned board gamers, there's a big appeal. A huge draw is that lower time length, with the genius simultaneous-ish play while being perpetually crunchy and accelerating so much tableau building satisfaction to the beginning of the game. There's a lot of mechanics and combos and immense replay value for those who maybe don't have the time to play the full length of Gaia Project or Terraforming Mars. One last thing, yes, this is grouped for small groups and big groups. With the larger groups, no worries about downtime. Although since everyone's island is so complex, and you have to optimize yours too, it can end up being pretty multiplayer solitaire. In 1v1, there's only one other island to track, so the game is a lot tighter, and so the race for central objectives gets more cutthroat. Remember, we haven't played this mode, but we'd imagine you'd actually play around your opponent having this terrain that gives them points for colors in other people's islands. Anyways, yeah, 10 out of 10 game. And for those on the fence, BGA is not an accurate representation of playing this game IRL. And then we have our personal scores to give you more information about our dear planet Earth.
My personal score for Earth is gonna be a 6 out of 10. An above average time. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Usually Euros don't score very high for me personally, especially solitaire Euros. I really want to be more interactive with friends, because otherwise, why are we all meeting up in person to do the tabletop version of everyone being on their phones the whole time? However, I want to make it clear that I do enjoy crunching over decisions and low to medium randomness. Just not the biggest fan of high randomness or no randomness. Unfortunately, a lot of Euros are not crunchy enough for me and have way too little randomness. That, when combined with how uninteractive a lot of Euros are, and the result is I end up sitting there twiddling my thumbs just waiting for it to be my turn again because I can't interact with people in game. It doesn't help that I'm not bad at Euros. I typically end up winning while no one can stop me, and I find that really lame. But Earth diverges from these trends in two key ways. There's a decent amount of randomness, and there's very little downtime. Despite there being low interactivity, these changes alone are enough to shoot the score up significantly because it means I'm not sitting there doing nothing bored out of my mind like with, I don't know, Wingspan. Earth, to me, is sort of like the Yu-Gi-Oh of Euros. You can set up pretty absurd combos in your turn that go on and on. But unlike with Yu-Gi-Oh, where it can become solitaire and the opponent just has to wait for you to finish your combo if they don't have disruption available, in Earth, players get to also do their combos since everyone is doing something no matter whose turn it is. As a result, this game stands head and shoulders above the rest of the Euros out there. And if anyone wants to play a solitaire Euro when I'm with them, I now have another game to suggest instead that I'm more okay with playing that still falls within the same ballpark. So the lack of downtime in a solitaire game is a huge deal, but what about the actual gameplay? Well, this game crunches for sure. It's easy to pick up and just throw on whatever cards to do decently well, sure, but if you want to go crazy with every tiny little advantage you can squeeze out of your every move, there's so many different factors to keep track of. Every card has so many different aspects on them that are potentially relevant for points, from name to flora type to habitat icons on top of their actual abilities, which you also have to position correctly since everything activates in order, or maybe that positioning is also something that's getting you points. But that's just placement of individual cards when considering how much you can get out of one card while looking around for every possible bonus. There's also the fact that card draw in this game is plentiful, and it's pretty easy to have massive hands of like 20 cards where your decision space gets even more ridiculous. Shit like that is my jam, and it never feels like there's an obvious decision until the game is wrapping up and the strategy starts to take its final shape. Ultimately, Earth is never going to extend into the realm of games I'm actively selecting for a good time due to the solitaire gameplay. Like, everyone doing actions at the same time is nice and all for no downtime, but I need players blocking things off, stealing shit, doing trade-offs where the cost is feeding someone else, something, anything like those. None of that is here. 6 out of 10 is as high as it gets. And Earth existing now makes other solitaire Euros feel even worse to me by comparison, because now I know a no downtime version exists. And the longevity is hella long lasting given how big the deck is and how many different scoring bonuses and strategies exist for an absurd amount of novelty. But I still wouldn't want to play it super duper often.
My personal score for Earth is going to be a 6 out of 10. I have an above average time with it. Funnily enough, I fell for this game pretty hard at first, but Steven was so impressed by it that he really wanted to play again, so I bought a copy. So then we played again, and I was actually a little bit more disgruntled, and my score dropped to a 5 out of 10. But then we played again after that, and I started to understand the pacing of the game better and the card interactions, and so my score went up to a 6 out of 10. In fact, I would easily rate this a 7 out of 10 if it weren't for A, the terrible feeling of having to add up everyone's island points, which feels like an absolute chore end game. Gosh, they need an app for this or something. And then B is that it's so annoying to look at the central objectives early game. I just don't like looking over and being like, oh, okay, this is some other dry thing I have to do. But then after I sort out that checklist, when I start playing the game and doing the actions, the game loop is so satisfying. It's constantly interesting. Right from the get-go, I like puzzling about your engine. Your island pops off so hard from turn 1, and it pops off even harder as the game goes on. And there's literally zero downtime whenever I play. There's just so much to keep track of that it's all intuitive. Touching cards and the tokens feel great, and gotta love someone else taking a turn and you going at the same time as them. There's just so much going on with each card, and as such, the possibilities and how your island can grow are like these trees with multiple branches just sticking out of my head. And that's just a great buzz to be with, to be constantly surveying your hand and your island, and then seeing what colors are good, and then kind of keeping track of other people's colors, kind of. And with repeat plays and me seeing more and more cards, I'm really sold that there's new things to do all the time, and the game length never feels like it outstays its welcome. As a whole though, Earth is just too multiplayer solitaire for me. Like, I don't feel the most satisfied afterwards because I know that we all kept our little corner and built our islands, but that's the point. Oh, and while the theme is cool, it doesn't do a whole lot for me in a board game. I tend to like more fantastical themes, but hey, I'll never dislike a nature theme in a game. I'm definitely realizing that I want at least some escapism when playing board games. Nothing quite takes me out of it as much as playing an asparagus or a corn with dirt. Then you grow stuff on them. Like you're growing sprouts on them, which keeps reminding me of the supermarket Sprouts, not sponsored by them. Upon making this review, I'm just so impressed by the game. I can see how you can get real good by doing all this little crunching and optimizing of these cards. And I don't think my score will ever go down from a 6 out of 10, even if I play it like 10 more times. I've come to respect this. It really feels like a class in of its own by combining the Euro feeling with some card game isms with the simultaneous-ish play, and now can we have some more Euros with more simultaneous-ish play. Thanks for watching the video. That was Earth. Yeah, quite shocked that this was actually a 10 out of 10. Really like to hear what you guys think about this game, or how it compares to your mainstay Euros like Terraforming Mars, Wingspan, or Arcanova. Anyways, thank you guys for watching the video again, and thank you to our patrons right here. Thank you guys for making these videos possible. We do have to take the time to play the game, film everything, and also we have to buy the game, so that's the thing. Anyways, yeah, thank you to our Mad Lads of Cardboard right here. We got some new fellas, and that is it for the video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you down below in the comments. I will be reading them. Bye-bye.